my new boyfriend's great. He looks amazing without his top on. By which I mean he's circumcised, so it's...
Hello, Alex Haddow. Thank you very much for coming on in the room.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. So you've just done a gig downstairs.
Yes.
So I'm curious. How did you find the gig? Because the first thing you said to me kind of revealed. Gone.
Yeah, I feel like I've jinxed myself knowing that I was going to talk about it straight away after. I feel like that was the least sort of explosive performance I've had here in a while. But I think that's because the Bill Murray is, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on your podcast, is one of my, if not my very favourite venue to perform in, and I feel like it's always electric. So if I did that set in any other club, I'd be like, that was good.
Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't. Here I'm like, I could have got them a bit more.
And what I'll ask about the room itself in a sec, but what about it? Because without being leading or in any way give my own opinion, what about it made you feel like it wasn't as explosive as it might have been?
I feel like they weren't. They were a bit unsure of me. And usually I'm sort of quite smiley, quite friendly. I feel like I can sort of be cheeky and get away with stuff. And I did a joke that references, it sounds really extreme to say it references the IRA.
First generation English from an Irish family. I'm first generation English from a Scottish family. So I think we sort of bonded over the rest of our families hating us. So I think that's where we are. But no, he's very proud of his Irish heritage. His family are from Derry in Ireland. Some fans in, and I'm not gonna say what side his family were on, but let's just say I called it Derry, and I bought him a balaclava for Valentine's Day because I want him to look like his dad. Do you know what I mean? One man's terrorist is another woman's biggest sexual fantasy, and you can't knock that, okay? Okay, London not ready for that joke.
It doesn't really. It does really, but I feel like I've done that around the country, and in the last couple of weeks, it's quite a new joke, and it's really gone down amazingly well. And then I feel like today they tensed up a bit.
Okay.
And I feel like after that, I was like, oh, they don't fully know who I am. Maybe.
It's so interesting about where are you on the spectrum of internal voice during the gig and kind of not being in your head? So the reason I say that is I watched it, I didn't pick up on any of that.
Oh really?
That's
interesting.
I was very much, I thought it went well, the IRA stuff, and I also thought it wasn't really IRA stuff.
No, it's not, but I think that people sort of associate, or they hear certain words sometimes, don't they? And then they're like,
the balaclava line. Balaclava line was great.
Yeah, that's the one.
But would that be because would there be something in that? Maybe it's a newer bit, and you're kind of you're finding the exact wording on it, so that you might be less thinking about feeling it in the room and more thinking paddling hard underwater. Yeah,
I think so. I think even when you think you're totally fine with a new line or a new joke or a new wording, I think it does still take maybe 3 or 4 runs out of it before even I feel like subconsciously they sometimes pick up on, oh, that's a new but you know what I mean, you're not as sure of it as the stuff that you've been doing for a few months or whatever. And
the bit itself, how recent is it? What's the
that sort of 3-line bit about my boyfriend being from an Irish family is quite new, but I did a bit a while ago and I had a different line than the balaclava line, and it was too political. And as in, not I wasn't saying my political opinion, I was referencing something in politics to do with Ireland, and it wasn't landing. Okay. And I really thought it was common knowledge, but it's interesting because it really wasn't landing, and I thought, I'll have to shelve that. And then I said something else, and it was about sectarianism, and in Glasgow and stuff it was going well, and I did it in Ireland and it went well, and then you do it in the north of England and it sort of was okay, and then I was like, it's not working in the majority of my gigs, so I sort of scrapped it, and then I've gone for something a bit more of a punch to the face with what I'm trying to say, and now it's working. So but that bit is brand new in terms of that actual version of it.
Yeah, okay. So you've worked on a bit, and would you have bits that you kind of shelve, bring back, kind of work on? Then
I like it when I do that, but it doesn't happen that often. I feel like I really admire people that can do that, because I sort of feel like rubbish. Do you know what I mean? But then sometimes I think it's often that you're working on another idea, and then you maybe think of something and you're like, actually, that's a way that I could bring that in, that old bit in, and then it sort of sometimes weaves its way into like a new bit. Yeah.
And what is your process with working? So when you do work on a bit, are you writing on notebooks? Are you just remembering on stage? How do you create stuff? Are you setting a timer and sitting down and going, right, I'm going to write for 45 minutes?
I wish I could do that. And I in my head I still think I'm going to do that every week. I'm like every week I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do, and it just never happens. And I think what actually happens is that I start to get to a place where like post Edinburgh, my brain is completely mush. Like I just, for a few months, I panic every year that I'm never going to have a new idea ever again. And then things start to sort of spark, I would say, in my brain. And I write down on my notes app on my phone, because often it's where you're out and about, someone says something or something happens, and you write, and I write it down on my phone. I prefer to write by hand if I'm writing out new ideas. However, and I hate this, the practicality of it is I do write all new ideas down on a Google Doc, so that I can have it on my phone if I'm at a new material night, just to kind of go through. So I know it's often not written out as in detail as it is by hand, but just so that I've at least got it there, you know. So because sometimes do you ever feel like this? You get into like a little groove of a sort of 10-minute set or a new set or something, and then you think, oh God, there's that bit that I know really well that I like, that I've just sort of forgotten about because I've just gone into this kind of groove for a couple of weeks, and then you think, oh no, bring that back. So yeah, I wish it was more organised and structured and romantic than it actually is.
Well, we were talking about this before we came in. Like the idea of just doing the stand-up is actually it's almost anachronistic now. It's like it's an old thing, because you have to do so many other things. Am I editing my set today to get that on YouTube? Am I on Instagram? Am I looking at tour dates and that kind of thing? So so have you found, because I think, you've been on tour recently. You've just, like you had a show in Edinburgh that went well. You're kind of busy, you're working. Have you found that the writing time in your life has been squeezed by the rest of... Yeah?
Oh, massively. Yeah. And sometimes I think it's not like I physically don't have the time. It's like mentally you don't have the brain space. Yeah, the bandwidth. The bandwidth, that's a good way of describing it. Because it's, the stress of selling tickets and pushing tickets and all this admin around it. And, some of it I don't mind. I've worked in boring office jobs and jobs that I've absolutely hated. Sometimes it's quite nice. I quite like doing a bit of admin, like, emailing for gigs and stuff like that. You think, oh, maybe I'll try that, or I've never gigged there before, or whatever. I don't mind that. It's the stress of, selling tickets and touring and getting stuff online and... Have you done this yet? Have you done that yet? And it's like, oh, yeah, I have. And I'm not complaining. I still love it. But it does definitely leave less time for the actual... Yeah. What we probably... I feel like everyone in the 90s was just getting up at, midday, writing for 8 hours, going to do their gig for $8,000 and then coming home.
Well, yeah, I know. It does feel like, the easiest job in the world. I work 20 minutes a day. That's what I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And that's why we all got into it for, right? We
Yeah,
were just
exactly.
like, so it looks like a really easy job. It's like, what? Oh, no, now I've got to be an editor. I've got to film. I've got to know cameras. I've got to tour. I've got to build my own tour. I've got to,
what am I doing?
It's like, basically we all got into it thinking, oh, I'm not much good at anything else. I'll just do this. It's just like, oh no, now you've got to do everything else and that.
I know.
Yeah. So going back to the room, because so how did you start the show tonight? What was your opening? What and how did you feel that went?
My opening was there was a lady that worked for the Legal Business Awards. So I just did a really quick line about how that sounds like an excuse that I would use to get out of plans with friends.
I absolutely love the Legal Business Awards. Sounds like something I've lied about in the past to try and get out of plans. You don't know what the next word that's going to come out of your mouth is going to be. Why can't you come tonight? I've got to stay on at work. What for? The Legal Business Awards. Yeah, it's going to be a late one.
It just sounds like all of the words are corporate. There's no like meat in the sandwich there. There's not like the hand gliding.
Yeah. We don't know
business
what's
awards.
going on. We just know that
it's what? And so I sort of did a thing about that, and then I went into 2 kind of one-liner bits that are a bit older, because I feel like that's the sort
Which
of...
were they?
The age of people in the room, and then me turning 35.
You guys seem like a very cool young crowd. Give me a cheer if you're under 30. Oh my god, that's a wall of energy. Over 30. But we matched it. That was good. Amazing. I'm in the older camp. I turned 35 recently. Thank you. I turned 36 even more recently, because that's the age I actually am. So, and I'm turning 37 tomorrow, so that's the last day I can ever do that joke.
Oh, that was another... I said I turned 35 recently. I turned 36 even more recently, because that's the age I actually am. And then I said, I'm trying to, bring it like to a one-off thing. I'm actually turning 37 tomorrow, so that's the last time I can ever use this joke. And it got an R. And I was like, oh no, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes you get an R and you think, oh no, I know what I'm doing. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. And then did some, I say new, not new. No, I know, Newer stuff.
Yeah. But so those openings are kind of like, how do you feel about the opening lines? Like that opening line about 36 even more recently. Yeah. Like that's something that is it almost like there's a, like when I go on stage, I often talk about being a Swedish guitar teacher. Yeah. And there's an element of that, of like, but there's an element of kind of like enjoying and they're connected, I'm connected, and then moving on. Is that the kind of like, definitely, and we're off?
Yeah, because I don't really have anything. Like sometimes if I'm wearing something weird, I'll try and think of something that it looks like before I go on, and I'll say that. But I don't have anything with my appearance that I really like. Maybe I should try and think of something. But Mickey Overman's got a great line about that, about her. She looks like her parents are still together. Yeah. It's so niche, but it works so well. And I just think if I come up with an absolute zinger of one of those, then I will. But I just think I don't think there's anything that like stands out. Do you know what I mean? So I just don't. I don't do anything like that unless I'm wearing something weird. Then I'll say it.
And in reflection from tonight, when you went 37 tomorrow, would you like, for you, what happened in that moment? Like, were you, because you mentioned about kind of like, oh, don't feel this for me, but I'm curious to kind of burrow down a bit into that. Like, would you do that line again, or would you like, actually I wouldn't do that if, because
I would probably try it one more time, and if it got an R, I'd be like, okay, this isn't, because I think that's not what I want to portray in that moment. An R can be good if it's in the right place, but sometimes my friend Jamie Allerton, who you know as well, he'll do some self-deprecating stuff, and he's a bigger guy and he talks about that, but it's really kind of like packed with a punch, like it's really fiery, and sometimes very occasionally they'll be like, oh, and he's like, fuck, because that's not what actually not what I'm trying to do. You've kind of misunderstood. I'm not going for the pity party sort of thing. I'm trying to take the piss out of myself, and you're with me. So when I got the R tonight, I thought, oh no, is that sort of derailed?
And do you think that might have, when you said at the beginning that, oh, I don't know if I was totally connected, would that have been part of the...
Maybe subconsciously, yeah.
Okay.
And I thought, and because it is kind of a young crowd, because I did a bit about Instagram tonight, and it's quite, I would say it's quite niche, but I've done it for the last month or so in a very...
So the Instagram bit was...
It's about somebody relaunching their boyfriend, getting back together with someone on Instagram, and the kind of modern etiquette around that.
Okay, now I feel like we're all pretty tech savvy in here. Give me a cheer if you've got an Instagram account. Okay, not as many people as I thought. Okay. Sorry, you guys are still on MySpace. But I think we're all kind of familiar, even if you don't have it, with the kind of the etiquette of showcasing a new partner on Instagram. Yeah, thank you for the murmurs of appreciation. I'm talking about your hard launch and your soft launch, okay? Now, if you don't know what these are, a soft launch of a new partner on Instagram is where you post sort of like a story, an Instagram story of you guys going for coffee, okay? But their face isn't in it, it's just their hand in the background, like on the coffee cup, all right? Untagged. So nosy bitches like me can't see who you're fucking, okay? I'm there looking for any identifying marks on the hand, any hand tattoos, cross-referencing it with your follow list, like, who is it? Another very good example of a soft launch is where you post like a picture of your new partner walking down a cobble street from behind, and you put like, lately. The mistake! I must know! Then, all being well, about 5-6 weeks later, if you're still going out, you're still happy, you go for your hard launch. I'm talking faces on the grid. I'm talking tagged. I'm talking a caption that's like, recent times with this one. Straight to The Hague, in my opinion. And it is busy there at the moment, do you know what I mean? As busy as it should be. But, and something like that, right? And that's your hard launch. And then we can all get to stalking whoever your new partner is. Within 2 hours, I'm on their LinkedIn. I can tell you their work history for the last 20 years, okay? But I saw something on Instagram this week that was so much worse than the hard launch or the soft launch, and that was the relaunch. The hot shame of the relaunch. I'll tell you the story, right? I can see a couple of people looking at each other like, I've done that, okay. Right, I'll tell you the story. My friends Francesca and Ryan, they've been going out for about 6 months, okay, and they were very, very public on Instagram. It was sort of sickening, but I was happy for her at the same time. She was my friend, right? And then all of a sudden, about a couple of months ago, Ryan was MIA, missing. Right? Didn't see him at all, and I thought, maybe something's wrong. The first red flag that something was up was that Francesca was posting a lot of thirst traps, right? She was like there in her underwear. She was wearing a bikini at one point. I was like, babe, it's December. What's going on? Second red flag that something was up. She started posting empowering female song lyrics on the Instagram story. I was like, fuck. He is either fucked up or they've broken up. There's definitely something going on. And then the biggest red flag of all, okay, the sort of flare in the middle of the ocean, right, was that Francesca started posting her own poetry on her Instagram grid. I just want you guys to know, I feel like we're all close in here, okay? I want you guys to know, if I ever start posting my own poetry on my Instagram grid, I have been kidnapped, okay? And that is my secret signal to all of you that I need help and you need to raise the alarm, all right? And look, I'm not sort of having a go at Francesca for any of that, right? We all know that is phase 1 of the slut spiral, all right? Tits out, creativity. That's what we do, all right? That's us putting the signal back into the world that we're ready to fuck again. I can see some men being like, I thought I worked that out of my own accord. No, we led you into the trap, right? That's phase 1. Phase 2, we overcorrect. We go far too wholesome. All right, that's exactly what Francesca did. She was posting pictures of her making a broth. I was like, what? I've never seen you in a kitchen in my life. She was on a country walk with a dog. I was like, you don't have a dog. Whose dog is this? Have you borrowed a dog to prove that you're over Ryan? What's happening? All right. And also, by the way, by this time I'd reached out. I knew that they had broken up. I knew that she was going through the breakup and everything. And I knew that in real life, she'd unblocked her dealer and shagged the guy from the vape shop. Do you know what I mean? I was like, put that on. That's what we want to see, okay? What's all this weird, overly wholesome stuff? But it's fine. That is phase 1 and phase 2 of the slut spiral, right? And then a couple of weeks ago, her Instagram went quiet. And I thought, well, that's fair enough. The opposite of love is indifference, okay? Like, she's probably levelled out again after the breakup. We've reached out. We've had fun with her. We've taken her for a drink. She's probably okay. She's probably just chilling. But it was too quiet. Suspiciously quiet. And then, a couple of days ago, out of nowhere, she didn't even lube me up with a story. There he was, back on the grid. Tagged, Francesca and Ryan, in a prezzo. Have some class.
So I wouldn't have done that in like an older audience, because I think they'd be like, what the hell are you on about? But I thought it was I've done it at the Bill Murray a couple of times, and it's gone down really well. Yeah. And one of them was Daniel Fox's night, where the audience were, very queer and very sassy and like loved it. But yeah, tonight I thought, I don't know if some of them quite know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And so I tried, as you know, you try and you're setting it out in case people don't know what you're talking about at the start. But then I think some people are still a bit like, what is this? This new language? They probably know what I'm talking about, but they didn't maybe know. So I hope it doesn't feel like that doesn't feel exclusionary. Like, oh, you know. Oh, you don't know.
Well, it sounded interesting though, because I heard all that and heard it really kind of hitting home.
Oh, okay.
So it's interesting that kind of like, but the thing is, we have all been at all of our own gigs. Yeah. So we know the bar at which there's laughters. Like, most people haven't been at all of our gigs, so they've got no idea. It was like,
God.
Yeah, Christ.
Some of my friends were in the early years, and thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your services to comedy.
Yeah.
But like I was curious about that bit, because it's a great bit, and I was wondering, because it's observational. There's an observational bit. It almost feels like a Sean Walsh bit.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about something that. Yeah,
yeah,
I'll take that. Yeah. But where did that like come from? So that there could have been any number of ways. Like they could have, I think the line Prezzo, round 2.
Yeah.
Like that feels to me like that line in particular might have been the way into the whole.
It was.
Really?
It was exactly that. Yeah.
Because it's exactly such that. You can just, oh my God, just the sternum blow of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had that, you saw that. And
I saw that and I thought, oh, that was, my reaction is kind of, I exaggerate on stage a lot in that bit. And I thought, oof, that is, and in fairness, in real life, they were doing it quite tongue in cheek. I think they were almost like, people are going to know because it's getting back together with someone after you've
There's no way of doing that tongue in cheek. I'm sorry.
I know. And I think they tried to own it and you're like, you can't own it.
I'm sorry.
In fact, I might add that on. Thank you. You have to sort of, you have to walk through the town as we all judge you.
Shame.
Yes, shame. So, and me and my friends talk about the soft launch of a partner, and then I thought, oh, what about the concept of a relaunch? And then I didn't actually. Well, I know I did write that out, and it had different bits in it than I did, so it was different examples. And then over time, it's just sort of eroded into this bit that actually does work. So when I first did it, there was a couple of other examples that I gave about, when you're on the rebound after a breakup and stuff, and people weren't really, I can't remember what they were, but I said like, when you do this on social media or something, and it didn't hit. And I thought, oh, okay, take that out. And then it was a couple of times, this is what MCing's good for as well. If you're doing a bit as the MC, I think naturally I feel more relaxed because I'm the MC, but I'm doing a bit. And then sometimes you come up with an ad-lib bit because you're not thinking, and then you're like, oh, keep that in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So one of the things I was going to ask about the show as well, like so you started off just looking at material directly. You started off like new boyfriend, circumcised.
Got a new boyfriend. And it's going too well. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want to look directly at him in case I ruin it. That's where I am because I've got a bad track record. Me and whoever's laughing over there, a kindred spirit with fuckboys, of the past. That's nice. But my new boyfriend's great. He looks amazing without his top on. By which I mean he's circumcised. So it's.
Is that again a kind of more solid opening kind of thing?
Yeah, it's why did you open bit?
Yeah. Did you open with that? You're getting that. There's or used to be an old long, but you've had to cut it.
Cut it
down, made it shorter. But it's funny that we're now talking about your boyfriend's circumcision as part of the podcast. But
he's watched that joke on stages up and down the country.
But would you be talking about that at the beginning because you know that you're going to talk about relationships a bit further on, or is there a reason or is it just okay? This is one of your standard openings, or
it's become one actually quite recently because it is a longer sort of set, and then I just really liked that line from it, and I thought that's sort of a nice way of being a bit cheeky at the top. And I sort of like drop the curtain. I say that was a bit of a litmus test, and it is. Yeah.
That was a little litmus test for the rest of the gig. We're gonna be fine. I will bring you in. It's gonna be okay.
It is a bit of a litmus test because also I don't know about you. I sort of judge audiences wrongly sometimes. Even when I supported Ishan Akbar a couple of weeks ago in Northampton. And he went out and did sort of 5-10 minutes and really hyped me up. And it was really lovely of him. And he talked about when he was supporting Mickey Flanagan and this whole thing went wrong and he thought the audience were against him, but he couldn't hear them. They were actually being supportive and this whole thing. And then he said, so a support act is really, really great. And he, really built it up. And I went out there and they were like slightly older and I thought, oh, don't do the circumcision bit, don't do that. And I did stuff about, it was in Northampton and I'm from Corby and I did loads of local Corby stuff that went like okay. And that you could tell they were really like relating to it and they were getting it. Yeah. And then I thought, 10 minutes in, I thought, oh, sod it, I'm going to do it. And they loved the circumcision bit. And I thought, oh, I've judged them as being like older and they're not here for that and, keep the smut away or whatever. And then you think, I've wasted my life, I've wasted the last 9 minutes of my life. I could have been doing, and actually they were into that. Yeah. So I think sometimes doing something like that at the top, because if they don't go for it, you can make a joke like referencing that. Yeah. And then you can be like, okay, well, what should we do for you then? Are you going to be all right? You know what I mean? And then you can go into like slightly more palatable. Then if that doesn't go well, you can be like, oh, so you do, which one do you want? Do you know what I mean? Like, but without being aggressive.
And then talking about men. So partly I'm going through the material because it was so related to each other. Like, you know, there's a step by step.
Do you know what? Like, a lot of my female friends and female comedian friends, they'll come up on stage and they will just slag men off, right? Just point blank. They'll be like, men are trash, men are animals, men are this, men are that, right? And I'm going to say something pretty controversial, right? In 2025, I like men. Okay? Yeah. Now, I know you guys have had a lot of bad PR for the last few years, but in fairness, that's only because of the things you've said and done. But I was thinking, you can't brush an entire gender like that. You said men are nuanced and complex, they're all different, they live completely different lives. That's what I thought. Until the other day, I was in bed with my boyfriend, not to brag, and I had to get up earlier than him to do some, get on with my day and stuff. Because even though I work at night, he works even later at night than me because he's a DJ. Red flag. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna give him a little spoon. Right before I know it's disgusting, but I have to tell you for the story. I'm gonna give him a little spoon, a little cuddle before I get up and get on with my day. Right. So he was lying here. So what I did was I swung my leg over him like that, and the heel of my horrible little foot, and it is horrible, right? It's so horrible. I'll tell you how bad it is. I recently found out I am on the foot fetish website, wikifeet.org, okay? And the reason I know that is because my feet are so horrible, it's a running joke in my group of friends how horrible my feet are, is that I put my name into wikifeet.org expecting it to say 0 results, and I was going to screenshot that and say, look, this is how bad my feet are. I put my name in, the profile was there, okay? The foot guys had compiled, and it is guys, let's be honest, right? No woman is coming home after a long day at work and being like, ooh. I think I absolutely want to knock one out of some lad's feet. No! That is one area where we're like, do you know what? We don't have to have it all. You guys have that, do you know what I mean? Feet and women's football. I'm not as much as an ally as Jack, okay? We don't have to have everything. But the point is, my feet were on there, right? And my feet were rated 3 out of 5, brackets, okay feet. And I know that I'm a bad feminist, because the first thing that ever made me go and get a professional pedicure was seeing that rating and being like, well, if they're going to be knocking one out over them anyway, let's get that up to a 4.5! Still 3 out of 5. Please sign up and rate me after the show. That'd be amazing. Anyway, where was I? Yes, hugging my boyfriend. Right, so I swung my leg over him like that, right? And the heel out of my 3 out of 5 foot accidentally landed on his cock. Right? And without waking up, even 1%, he got fully erect. He was simultaneously snoring and ready to fuck. And I looked at it and I thought, do you know what? Men are animals, actually. I found a good gender. Men are trash. That is just absolutely insane. That's an insane way to conduct yourself, right? And then I got curious. And I thought, I wonder what else I could touch it with. I've got a whiteboard, a Sharpie, and a fucking secret league table down the back of my wardrobe, right, with just objects from around the house. I went downstairs to the kitchen, got a carrot, touched it, sent it. Got a book from my bookshelf, a classic. Nothing. He's not the type of guy. Simple. His friend Jimmy, fully erect. You just don't know people.
Now, I've not heard you do that before. Is that relatively new as well?
That's relatively new, and I wasn't actually going to do it tonight, but it kind of evolved again when I was doing it at the last weekend about the foot thing, and I added the line, it is guys, women don't get off on feet. That's one area where we don't need to have it all. Like, we don't need equality.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that was because Jack Barry, the MC tonight, was talking about women's football and how much he loves it and being an ally. And I thought, well, I'm going to come up and add in that and women's football. I'm not like Jack.
Yeah.
I couldn't give a shit sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh yeah, I'll do that and add it into that. And then it sort of feels like, I think a lot of the time audiences are like, oh, you've been listening.
Yeah.
Oh, you were here as well.
Yes, yeah.
Sometimes I think that you were beamed down. Do you know what I mean?
And this is our night. This isn't a performance. This is our night.
Exactly, yeah. All the time we're giving you hints that, this isn't planned. I've just said all this stuff off the top of my head.
One thing I was just going to mention before we kind of wrap up, your use of the word slut spiral.
Yes.
And look, I'm not sort of having a go at Francesca for any of that, right? We all know that is phase 1 of the slut spiral. All right? Tits out, creativity. That's what we do, all right? That's us putting the signal back into the world that we're ready to fuck again. I can see some men being like, I thought I worked that out of my own accord. No, we led you into the trap. Right? That's phase 1. Phase 2, we overcorrect. We go far too wholesome. All right, that's exactly what Francesca did. She was posting pictures of her making a broth. I was like, what? I've never seen you in a kitchen in my life.
Yeah, what are your kind of like thoughts around it? Because it gets a laugh, but when you'd use it, would you use it on tour with like Ishan Akbar? Would you use
I
it?
would, you see, because I thought it was because that's not my phrase.
Yeah.
Me and my friends have used that for years. Maybe it's our phrase. No, but I think it is quite a common phrase.
I've not heard it before.
But I know what you mean. On that Northampton gig, I did the bit and I thought, I don't know if they're going to go for this. And they went for like weird parts of it, but they did go for slut spiral.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you think, oh, all right. You know, they might not necessarily know the exact sort of intricacies of what I'm talking about with the social media etiquette, but they do recognise, especially the women.
Yeah.
Sort of cracked up at it, because I think even if you haven't heard it, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know when people are compensating for something that they kind of like, oh yeah. You're like, oh no, what's happening with them? I should give them a call. There's and what if for people watching, what would you like to let them know about what you're doing at the moment? Because you just finished a tour. Are you back on?
Oh yeah. When will this be coming out? Do you know?
Actually, probably in about a month's time. So April.
Oh, okay. I will have just finished the tour, but just, you know what? Just follow me on Instagram. You'll find everything on there. Come to an Indie Amnesty. That's my club night that I run. It's so much fun. It's in Hackney. It's actually just been moved to the Victoria. It was at Two Palms, but they are shut for renovation. Nice. So yeah, so the Victoria, 11th of April. If this has just been and gone, just follow me on Instagram. You can find me on there.
Yeah. Brilliant. And on Instagram you are?
Oh, sorry, yes, my name. I'm Alexandra Haddow, Haddow.
Yeah. You know I'm Barry Ferns on Instagram.
Yeah.
I thought, right, I genuinely thought that it was the case because somebody else had nicked Barry Ferns, but I looked back into it and I had registered Barry Ferns and then I lost the password and now I can't access it. So I've basically
That's why I messaged you the other day thinking, I'm sure I've got you on Instagram.
Because you said it on Instagram. And I basically gazumped myself through my ADHD chaos of just like, all right, you know what? And it's not the only Instagram. I've done that twice. I've got a Ferns Barry out there anyway. So
you need to do that as a bit, just being like, how chaotic are you that you're just looking at your own profile going, who is this guy?
Yeah. Oh, it's me again. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I get a third high five.
Yes, the third one after the circumcision.
That's all I'm trying to say. Guys, you've been absolutely phenomenal. You've got a great night.
That was great, but you need therapy.